My husband thinks I got pregnant just to trap him, now he's sleeping in the guest room. So this whole thing kicked off about 6 weeks ago, when I peed on a stick and saw 2 pink lines that changed everything. I'm Jenna, 29, and I've been married to Ryan, 33, for just over 2 years. We've been together for 6. We live in a quiet suburb outside Denver, in a 2-bedroom duplex we rent together. I work as a logistics coordinator for a warehouse supply company. Not glamorous, but stable. Ryan's in IT, he works from home 3 days a week and spends a good chunk of the rest glued to his PC gaming setup. Kids weren't on our immediate radar. We vaguely talked about maybe one day, but nothing serious. I was on the pill, though I'll admit I missed a couple here and there when work got crazy. I didn't think much of it at the time. I wasn't trying to get pregnant. So when I saw the positive test, I sat on the edge of our tub and felt like my lungs were collapsing. I texted my friend Kara something like, oh shit, then just sat there. I didn't tell Ryan right away. I waited a full day. I needed time to process it myself. When I finally told him, it was after dinner, just us on the couch, the TV playing some mindless true crime in the background. I didn't do anything dramatic, just said, hey, I took a test, and it's positive. I even showed him the test. He stared at it like it was a loaded gun. Then he said nothing. I asked if he was okay. Still silence. Then he asked, did you plan this? I blinked. What? No. Of course not. He nodded, slow, too calm. You sure? That question. I swear I felt it like a slap. I repeated myself. Yes. I didn't plan this, Ryan. I'm just as surprised as you are. He stood up, walked into the kitchen, poured himself a drink, bourbon, which he rarely touches during the week, and didn't come back to the couch. Just stood by the sink and sipped. That night, he slept in the guest room. The next few days were cold. He didn't ask me how I was feeling. Didn't bring it up at all. I finally forced a conversation, and that's when he said it again. That he thought I let it happen on purpose. His exact words were, you knew missing the pill could get you pregnant, right? So, you kind of made a choice. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I tried explaining that it was never intentional. That I'd been overwhelmed and careless, not calculating. That if I'd wanted to trap him, I wouldn't have been crying on the bathroom floor when I found out. He just looked at me like I was trying to sell him something he didn't want. That night, I cried myself to sleep. Alone. I started to replay every interaction we'd had for the last few months. Was I too clingy? Did I push him into this relationship? No, that wasn't right. We moved in together because he asked me to. We got married because he proposed. I wasn't some rom-com villain scheming for a baby. But his suspicion hung in the air like a bad smell. And the worst part? He didn't say he didn't want the baby. He didn't say he wanted it either. He said nothing about it at all. Just kept acting like I tricked him. A week later, I tried to bring up our options, keeping it, abortion, adoption, whatever. I wasn't even sure what I wanted yet, and I thought maybe we could figure it out together. But he cut me off. Honestly, he said, I don't even know if I trust you right now. That broke something in me. I started sleeping in the guest room myself, because I couldn't take the way he looked at me in ours. Like I was a stranger. At work, I kept it together. At home, I was unraveling. I hadn't even told my mom yet. I wasn't ready for the questions, the judgment, or the pressure. And I sure as hell wasn't ready to admit my husband thought I'd used a baby as a relationship shackle. I kept hoping he'd come around. That he'd realize how messed up this was. That maybe he was just scared and would start acting like the guy I married again. But then something happened that made me realize this might not just be fear. It might be who he is now. It was a Saturday afternoon. I overheard him on the phone in the backyard, talking to someone, laughing, which I hadn't heard in weeks. And then he said, she says it was an accident, but I'm not stupid. She's been pressuring me about the future for months. I stood at the sliding door, frozen. That was the moment I realized he didn't just fear I trapped him. He believed it. And I didn't know how to come back from that. Hey Reddit, it's me again, Sam. A couple weeks have passed since my first post, and I'm still getting messages. Some people send support, others shared their own stories. Thank you, really. I didn't expect so many of you to care. A lot of you asked what happened next. So here we go. After Hannah left, I lived like I was in a fog. Not a good dream, one of those gray, numbing nightmares. The disease was progressing slowly. No major attacks, just a little worse every day. Always tired. Sometimes I'd wake up in the middle of the night in a panic because I couldn't feel my toes. That was scary. But the worst part? The silence. The empty space where someone used to be. Even hate would have been something, but there was none of that. Just nothing. A couple of weeks later, I went to the office to hand in my resignation. I felt like I couldn't keep drawing a paycheck when I wasn't functioning at full capacity. I wanted to leave quietly. No cake, no farewell speech. I just wanted out. I went to see the company's founder, an older, quiet guy, tough but fair. I thought he'd just sign the paperwork and send me on my way. Instead, he pulled out a folder and dropped it on the desk. "You know you have equity in the company, right?" he asked. I froze. "What? No. What equity?" He nodded. "You signed some paperwork 5 years ago when we were expanding. We issued options to key staff. You were on the list. Everything was placed in a trust. The company's grown tenfold since then. Your stake? It's worth about $11 million now." I didn't know what to say. It wasn't just shock, it was like the universe slapped me in the face and whispered, "Here. For everything you've been through." And my first thought, like I wrote before, was, thank God Hannah never knew. If she had, she wouldn't have left. She would have stayed. Cooked soup. Ironed shirts. Told people how hard it was, but how strong we are. And I would have believed it was love. Now I knew the truth, it wasn't. I didn't make any big moves. I didn't buy a Mercedes. I didn't call a travel agent. I just went home. Sat down. Took out an old notebook and started writing a list. Not of purchases. Of changes. Find a specialist for my condition. Start therapy, mental health therapy. Move the money to a secure account. Think about where I want to live. Don't tell anyone yet. You know, when life completely falls apart, you see things clearly for the first time. No illusions. I started remembering conversations with Hannah over the years. I realized how much cold calculation there was in her voice. She wasn't a bad person. Just, she wasn't with me. She was with a version of me that made her life convenient, working, healthy, undemanding. But I'm a real person with fear, pain, exhaustion. Now I'm on the edge of something new. But I'm moving slowly. Like someone who's breathing for the first time in years, without someone else's tube in my mouth. You asked if she's tried to come back. Not yet. Total silence. Not a single text. She probably thinks I'm stuck in bed, cursing her. Or already in a wheelchair. Let her think that. I won't ruin her illusion. Her world will crack soon enough. And me? I'm alive. Not because of someone, but in spite of them. Want me to keep going? There's more to come. Hey Reddit, it's Sam again. I live in a house where the floorboards creak in the evening and the roof talks to the wind at night. It smells like wood and wet earth. It smells like silence. The kind that doesn't press down on you, it holds you. Every day, my life feels further from what it used to be. The old stuff is peeling off like bark from a tree, slow, honest. And at some point, I realized, it's time to file for divorce. It wasn't revenge. It wasn't a power move. It was like taking out the trash. Calmly, finally, and without drama. I gathered the paperwork. Sent Hannah the notice via email and mail. It was a quiet Wednesday. Rain tapping the window. Chamomile tea in my hand. An hour later, she replied. Okay. I agree. No objections. That was it. I didn't know what I expected. Maybe some fight, some anger, some grief, anything to prove that what we had was real. But there was nothing. She accepted the divorce like a food delivery notification. And that was the final truth. The next morning, I went to see my parents. They live 30 minutes away, in a brick house with purple curtains my mom hasn't changed since 1998. I sat in their kitchen, drinking the same tea I had as a kid, searching for words. Hannah and I are getting divorced, I said. Mom froze. Set her cup down slowly. But why? I told them. About the illness. The silence. Her leaving. Mom started crying. I thought she loved you. I thought so too, I said. Dad was quiet. Stared out the window. Then poured himself a whiskey. I hoped you'd get through this together. Like your mom and I did. I nodded. We're not you, Dad. Hannah's parents were different. First, a text from her mother. Are you serious? She did so much for you. I waited a day before replying. She did until I got sick. Then she left. That's not love. That's Elise. Her father called later. Sam, maybe you're both overreacting. Divorce isn't the answer. You're right, I said. Divorce isn't the answer. It's the beginning of a life where I'm not abandoned the moment I need someone. He went silent. I could hear him smoking on the other end. Then he hung up. The whole time, fall wrapped the house. Cold wind. Damp leaves. Mist above the fields in the morning. I walked forest trails with Spencer, my new dog. He barked at squirrels and dug at tree stumps. Sometimes he'd sit next to me and stare like he knew everything. There was more truth in his eyes than I'd seen in years of marriage. I started drinking coffee on the porch. Reading. Cooking. Talking to myself out loud, unashamed. I baked my grandma's apple pie recipe. I tasted things again. And I started writing letters. Not to send. Just to get it out. Letters to Hannah. Letters to myself, years ago. Letters to whoever might come into my life someday, someone real. Someone without a mask. With each letter, the air around me felt lighter. Like I was airing out my soul. I don't celebrate the divorce. It's not a win. It's a release. A breath I hadn't taken in years. If you're in a house where no one hears you, know this, outside, there's a silence that will. No drama. Just you. Real you. The story isn't over. But now, at least, I know which direction I'm walking, continuation. Filing for divorce didn't feel like freedom right away. It wasn't like in the movies, no walking out of court into sunlight, no slow motion moment taking off my ring and smiling into the sky. It was just another day. Gray skies. Junk mail. Cold coffee. But inside, something started shifting. Like an old blanket I didn't realize I was carrying had finally been lifted. I started feeling things. Really feeling. The chill in the air on my skin. The smell of the forest after rain. The way Spencer's breathing changed as he slept by my feet. I only went back to the city once to drop off the finalized paperwork with my lawyer. Walking down familiar streets, I felt like a stranger. Like I'd been acting out a role, Sam the director, Sam the husband. That costume was in a pile now, and I had no interest in putting it back on. I passed a coffee shop we used to frequent. Saw an old couple friend at a table. They waved. I walked over. Hey, Sam. We've missed you. Heard you were sick, stay strong. I'm okay, I said. And Hannah? We're getting divorced. They exchanged a glance. Their faces tightened with awkward sympathy. I didn't let it linger. Take care of each other, I said, and walked away. Back home, I made a pie. Sat on the porch with Spencer. Watched the sun bleed through the pine trees. For a moment, I remembered I once dreamed of this life. Not wealth. Not comfort. Stillness. Honesty. Silence with no edge. Now I had it. But I knew something was still coming. Life doesn't end with a divorce. Or betrayal. Or even millions. Life is a road. And I still had some walking to do. Quietly. Steadily. With paw prints beside me. Maybe, if I'm lucky, with someone real one day. Hey again, Reddit. Sam here. It's been exactly a year since I filed for divorce. Since then, a lot has changed. The country house feels like a real home now. Spencer's grown a heavy, snoring mass of comfort. I started writing not for anyone else, just for myself. I honestly thought I was done with the chapter where Hannah existed in my life. But she came back. It started with an email. Short. Emotionless, like it came from a stranger. Hi Sam. I'd really like to see you. I know it's been a year, but, if you're willing, please write back. I stared at the screen like it could somehow reveal more. I didn't reply. For a week. Then 2. Then came a message. A missed call. I ignored them. Then a real letter. Handwritten. Her slanted cursive, unmistakable. Pages of confession. She wrote that the man she left me for turned out to be hollow. That the money and cars got old fast. That he was cold, selfish, dismissive. She said she felt like an object. That she never felt at home with him. But with me, she had. I realized I only ever felt safe, real, and alive with you. Please, just meet me. I don't want anything but a real conversation. I didn't know what to do. I wasn't in love with her. I didn't want her back. But part of me wanted to hear it. Not for reconciliation, for closure. We met at a cafe. I chose the place neutral ground. A little coffee shop with jazz in the background and cinnamon in the air. I arrived early, took a seat by the window, ordered black coffee. She walked in. Smiled. Same walk, same hair, same sweater I once gave her. She sat across from me. Hi, Sam, her voice trembled. I nodded. She started talking. Fast. Disorganized. She told me how it was like a movie at first, but quickly soured. He stopped caring. Started criticizing. Treated her like part of the decor. She said he never asked how she felt. I realized I lost the only real thing I ever had, she said. You weren't perfect, but you saw me. He never did. I said nothing. Just listened. I've never felt at home anywhere since. Only with you, she added, lowering her gaze. And right there, Reddit, I realized she wasn't coming back to me. She was coming back to the version of me she had left. The predictable Sam. The dependable, manageable Sam. She didn't know I was different now. A millionaire. Someone who moved away. Who stopped wearing the masks. Who learned to sleep alone and enjoy the silence. And what did I feel? Disgust. Not at her. At who I used to be. At the man who tolerated, who waited, who believed he was loved until he became inconvenient. I looked into her eyes. Hope. Hesitation. Maybe a little fear. I nodded and said, "Thank you for being honest. I appreciate it. But I'm not the man you left. And you're not the woman I need." She blinked. I thought, she started. You thought I'd still be there. Waiting. But I'm not. She stood up slowly, picked up her purse. You've changed. Thankfully, I replied. She laughed. I stayed. Finished my coffee. Walked out into the overcast afternoon, light drizzle on my coat. I pulled up my collar and breathed in the air, cold, earthy, sharp. And I smiled. Not from happiness. From clarity. Additional continuation. I stood there for a while, watching her figure fade into the crowd. She never looked back. And that was how it should be. A year ago, I would have run after her. Said something soft. Offered another try. Now. I just watched the past disappear between strangers. I walked slowly toward my car. Past shop windows full of things I once bought for us, kettles, throw pillows, curated candles. All of it felt meaningless now. Because no comfort can cover up when the comfort itself was a performance. I sat in the car without starting it. There wasn't noise in my head, just emptiness. A clean kind of empty. Like after a storm. No debris. No drama. Just air. I remembered her letter. I don't want anything, not money, not comfort, just a conversation. But looking at her in that cafe, I knew, if I were still broke, sick, and jobless, she wouldn't have shown up. And if she had, it would have been with pity, not a hopeful smile. And that killed the last piece. Her return wasn't love. It was a search for stability. And I'm not someone's lifeboat anymore. I'm a man who doesn't need anyone's permission to be himself. Driving home, I stopped for gas and got coffee. I caught myself humming. Not a song, just sound. Quiet. Simple. Alive. I laughed to myself. For the first time in forever, I wasn't waiting for anything. No call. No letter. No closure. Just the road. Just me. For the last time. It's been about a month since the cafe meeting. Since then, I hadn't heard from Hannah. No messages. No letters. No accidental calls. And honestly, I thought that was it. The ending came not with a slam of a door, but with silence. I kept living. The house became home. Spencer, now fully convinced he owns the couch, snored louder than ever. I even started playing my old piano again, messy, imperfect, but with heart. And then tonight, she showed up. I heard the knock at 8:17 p.m. Not loud. Not desperate. Just unsure. Spencer barked, ran to the door. I opened it. There she was. Soaked from the rain. No umbrella. Her bag hung off her shoulder like it had been dragging her down for days. Eyes swollen. One step back and she might have collapsed. I stepped aside. Come in, I said. She entered the house slowly, kicking off her shoes. She stood in the living room like a guest in a stranger's space. Though this used to be hers, too. She looked around, clearly shocked that I'd built a life here without her. Sam, her voice trembled. I'm sorry for just showing up. I waited. Said nothing. I don't know how it happened. I thought I was doing okay. I convinced myself it was fine. And then it all felt empty. He left me, you know? Just gone. And that's when I realized I wasn't with you because it was comfortable. I was with you because it was safe. Because you were home. She started crying. Sat down on the couch and covered her face with her hands. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I know there's no excuse. I needed you to know that I see it now. Too late, I know. But I do. I sat across from her. Calm. Steady. Thank you for telling me, I said. She looked up, hope flickering in her eyes. I'm not asking for anything. But if there's a chance, to try again. Not like before. Honestly. I'm ready to fight, to listen, to learn. Just to be beside you. I looked at her and realized I wasn't angry. I wasn't hurt. I wasn't even relieved. I just felt nothing. No love. No hate. No pull. Just peaceful emptiness. And it felt right. Hannah, I said gently. I forgave you. A while ago. I truly don't hold anything against you. She cried harder. But we won't start over, I continued. Not because I'm bitter. But because I've already moved on inside. I'm not where you left me. She was quiet. Then stood. Thank you for listening. Take care of yourself, I said. Are you happy? She asked as she stepped toward the door. I smiled slightly. Now I am. I walked her to the door. Opened it. She looked at me one last time, eyes full of regret, hope, and the painful awareness that time had run out. I closed the door behind her. Stood still for a moment, hand on the frame. Took a slow breath. Then I walked to the window. The forest outside was cool and damp. The scent of rain-soaked wood filled the air. Somewhere in the dark, Spencer barked. I stared out into the night. And for the first time in a long time, I smiled not because I had to, but because everything was where it belonged. It wasn't a victory. It was a goodbye. To her. To the pain. To the man I used to be. And with that goodbye, I finally became who I was meant to be all along. Sam.